Hello, my name is Abigail Harlow. I am a senior at Hudson High School, and the title of my speech is When History is Silenced, the Last Eyewitness. There are two quotes that everyone has heard about history. Those who cannot remember the past are doomed to repeat it by George Santana, and History is written by the victorious by Winston Churchill. Who hasn't heard these? But is history ever truly safe from the changes of time? Will the actual events that shape the future of our world be remembered after the last generation that survived them is gone? We live in what is termed the information age. One would think that because of this, history is written everywhere and pictures are taken and there's letters written, but it's all on a computer. Now we have historical revisionists who rewrite history. Imagine rewriting the Constitution because we're going to add cell phones or selfies and other things that weren't there back then that my kids' won't know. The 20th century is only 18 years in the past, 100 years rife with war and social change. It wasn't the bloodiest century our country ever saw, but yet there's people that want to change it. Erase parts of the century that they're uncomfortable to admit. The Holocaust never happened. According to the Tampa Bay Times, the last veteran of World War I died in 2011 at the age of 110. Using that as an indicator, it's not uneasy to say that 100 years is the safety zone for history. Unfortunately, history seems to be suffering a much deeper disservice in the 21st century. In Japan, since World War II, there have been 3 separate periods in which the government has stopped certain textbook companies from publishing The Rape of Nanking. If you're unfamiliar, that's when the Japanese perpetrated many awful murders on the Chinese. But why would they want to tell their country that? Textbook publishers that did not comply found their books removed from the lists approved for purchase. Are you surprised? In Great Britain, there is an attempt to cease teaching the Holocaust as it is offensive to the immigrant population. So it didn't really happen. It's not just happening abroad, though. In Texas, textbooks being used for middle school curriculum have been edited to edit out Jim Crow laws because it is uncomfortable to admit. In 2010, new textbooks were printed, removing these historical events to create a more conservative approach to education. In Texas, new state standards to rewrite this history book makes teachers left to fill in the blanks. It's kind of like the way grandma used to tell you a story, but then mom told you and it was totally different. You really want your children learning about the Holocaust by filling in the blanks? Scary. It's important to know about history and to know everything that goes into it. I mean, your family came here from somewhere. What if it was just gone? It may be true that the winner writes the history books, but the school board buys them. It only takes one generation to obliterate the past and to change the ideas of what really happened. History is at risk. When the last Holocaust survivor is gone and can no longer pull up their sleeve to show the tattoo that inventoried them like cattle in the concentration camps, will the more than 6 million Jews, homosexuals, handicapped, and prisoners of war exterminated by the Nazis just be forgotten? What happens when the last U.S. sailor who awaited invasion orders watched the mushroom-shaped cloud appear and prayed he would be spared a ground war on the island of Japan is gone? There will not be anyone left to say that they were scared for their lives, to know that they might never see their families again, because everyone on Japan said, "I will fight until I die to save my country." When the last classmate of mine is gone, will the attack on the World Trade Center be remembered as something other than hatred toward the idea of freedom? Yes, we were young, but we do know what 9/11 was. But think about it. My mom knows what 9/11 was, and her stories and the history that's there right now is what teaches me. So once again, when my kids go to school, will they know what 9/11 was? For also my generation, April 15th, 2013 was the day no one felt safe. A street filled with people running a marathon like they did every year, instantly ruined due to Islam extremists, aka terrorists. The generation before me and after me, 2001. It's a big one. Just as December 7th, 1941 did for my 41-year-old grandfather. Just as November 9th, 1938 did for Jewish shop owners. The Boston bombing, 9/11, Pearl Harbor, and Kristallnacht are not just unimportant answers on a history exam. They are dates that mark periods where the world changed. Dates where history should have been written down. These are just a few examples of the dangers of erasing history, and don't even scratch the surface. But now, it's up to the younger ones. The teaching of our next generation is often looked upon as being the hope of the future. These students fidgeting at their desk, learning about Pythagorean theorem and deconstructing sentences, are the guardians of our past. They must be vigilant to protecting the truth of history. If not, how will my ancestors be able to walk in whatever realm it may be and know that their story is being carried on? Like I said, they must be vigilant in protecting the truth of history. If not, will my great-great-great-great-granddaughter ever even know what happened? Will your great-great-great-great-granddaughter know what happened? I mean, we all know the stories now, but what about later? What I have learned, and I hope you have learned as well listening to me today, is that history is only truly safe as long as an eyewitness or someone that truly cares about history survives. Thank you.